One. And we are recording, and we just make it very casual. Everyone listening, go fuck yourself. So today is Thursday, October 6th, 2022 at 5:07 p.m. Eastern time. This is episode 943 with Mr. Alex Howell. And you emailed me. You had watched an episode with Howard Bloom. And
Yeah.
I don't quite remember what what you and I talked about, but I was just like, yeah, just come on the show. And you're like, what? And I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's just do it. And you're like, all right. So here we are.
Well, yeah, I watched that and I thought, holy moly, like this is right up my alley. I got to
Oh
reach
yeah.
out to someone and get more of this.
Oh yeah.
And so Howard responded back basically with, "Hey, you got to email Tommy." So that's what I did.
All right.
I followed the
Yeah.
instructions.
All right. Fuck yeah. Howard's a cool guy, man. You can just I messaged him on Facebook like last May. And I
Right
was
on.
like, hey, I loved your book. And I had just seen him on like Rogan. And I was like, I loved your book. Would you come on my podcast? And just messaged me back. And he's like, yeah, all right. And I was like, the fuck? All right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Well,
it's a weird thing. People are always like, how do you get guests? I'm like, I ask them. What? Like, what do you mean? How do I get them? Well,
it,
well, okay. More clarification. You ask 100, you get one. You get
right,
90, you get 90, you get 95 people that don't respond. You get three
right.
people that politely say no. You get one person that says fuck off. And then you get one person that goes, I mean, I don't know why not. And you're like, I'll take it.
Yeah, right on, right on.
But what was it about that episode that I guess sparked something?
Well, I had never heard of Howard Bloom. Sorry, Howard, but I hadn't.
All right.
I don't, I guess, cross paths often enough for his name and works to have come up before. However, I was going through some podcasts a friend of mine had done a couple of years ago, I think it was. Yeah, 2020. I'm looking at it here. And a gentleman by the name of David Goldsmith, who I work with at a not for profit out of the States there, had interviewed Howard. And it was just so fascinating. I just started looking up everything Howard Bloom and went on LinkedIn. He'd posted your interview saying this is like fantastic interview, and I watched that, and here we are.
All right.
Yeah, it is really interesting, like how it's transpired from there. I'd
Yeah.
never heard of Omnology. Now I'm hooked. It
Yeah.
explains how I think and how I was born to think.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm certainly captivated by his works, and I really enjoy your style of interviewing
Thank you.
because it's more conversational, and I think it's more natural. You get a lot more out of people. I think the real stuff as opposed to um, the narrative that someone's trying to sell.
It's horrible.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I feel right at home listening to your stuff.
A narrative feels like someone's putting a lighter under your balls. You're just like, dude, what are we? I mean, I mean, I remember the first time I ever heard Joe Rogan was December 2011. I was
Wow.
studying general chemistry, and I remember my friend sent a link to me, and one of my buddies from high school, and you know, when you're in high school, it's what's more generic than like getting high and talking about the universe or like whatever. But I remember
Right.
he just kind of messaged me just as like just one of a trillion messages before and after. I've known him for 20 years, and I just remember that the text was hey, look, the Fear Factor guy kind of talks like we did when we would get high. And I was like, LOL. And just like threw it on in the background. And I still remember the video. It's called
Yeah.
What is Reality? And it was just a 10-minute
Right.
video. And I could play it and I could guarantee you I could quote it. And probably line for line. And I didn't know what it
Right.
was. I mean, I vaguely remember he was the Fear Factor guy. I didn't really give a shit. But I just liked it. It's just talking about just kind of consciousness and what are we and how like just how I was really still am, but had really just been getting into meditation and
That's interesting.
I was
Yeah.
really jacked up on just the idea of like because I'd be studying OChem and I was like balls deep on getting into med school, but then I'd just be like walking to campus and I'd be like, what is this? Like, I was just looking around and like, the fuck are trees? Like, what am I? Oh well,
Yeah.
you're an hairless ape and you stand upright and the agricultural revolution. I get all that, but like, huh? Like, like we just accept it.
Yeah.
We
Totally.
There's always the moment in the movie where everyone freezes and you see the UFO in the sky. But I start to have that about every moment in life. I was just like, oh, the sun's setting. No, the planet's turning, and there's a nuke. Like, and I was just like, everyday life started to just like glisten with novelty. And so I remember listening to that, and I was like, oh hell yeah! I didn't even know he had a podcast. And I found like another clip by him, and I was like, oh, the Fear Factor guy is just somebody's making compilations of him. Go, apparently he's just a thinker. And for like 2 years, I had no idea he had a podcast. But
Right.
I had a whole playlist on iTunes of just a bunch of
Classic.
YouTube videos I ripped and turned into MP4s. And one day I actually found a link, and I was like, oh, this is a show. And it was so weird, like you'd start to actually like listen to the episode, and then you'd find the thing that you had memorized a million times. Oh, that was kind of, you actually watch the movie that has the clip that you've seen before. And I was like, oh cool. And I listened to him a ton in like 2013, 2014. And then kind of fizzled off, listened to him, here and there. But that was the point of all of that is that was something I just thought was so interesting. And then watching him, and I know I sound like a hipster, but watching him from when like he was just the Fear Factor guy to exploding. And the only thing I'd ever noticed was like, here's a guy that's like informal enough to talk about like pussy and dicks and balls and shit. And then in the same sentence, like go into like, the blessing that it is to raise children. And
Mm.
then go into, the idea of like a horse
How the
fucking kid.
brain works or
Yeah,
something.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like it was weird because I'd never heard someone like on air talk about that, but it was so relatable because it was like, well, that's the conversations you have with your friends, not when you're
Mm-hmm.
all, well, I'm trying to run for office, but no, you're just sitting there on the front porch drinking, and 1 minute you're just talking about some like fat chick your friend hooked up with, and then like 2 minutes later you're talking about the importance of like finding love and settling down, and then it's just like
Yeah, he's
that's
getting stuck
natural.
into the meat and potatoes of life.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
is very relatable because that's how
that's
most
how
of
we
us
all
are
talk.
for most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not until we're around people we don't know or in front of a camera that we're like, well, no, oh no, I wouldn't call her fat. Yeah, you did. And when I was fat, I couldn't get laid either. It's just what it is. It sucks. Is I can't get laid now and I've lost the weight, so I don't even really know what clarification I'm trying to make. But like that was one of the things that always stuck with me. And like when I eventually did make the podcast, which is there's just a trillion years in between that list finding Rogan and starting. But that was one of the things I started with was like when I started was like a couple months before he got signed for $100 million.
Right.
It was after he had already interviewed Elon Musk and like Bernie Sanders. And so in my mind, I'm like, all right, here's this guy that I watched from the beginning. I sound
Yeah.
like a hipster, but who I watched, sponsored by the Fleshlight. Co-host was Brian Redban. They had snowflakes falling on the screen and making dick jokes to interviewing presidential candidates and Elon
Mm.
Musk. And I was
Yeah.
like, if there are lessons to take away from starting a podcast, do not put it behind a paywall. Do not censor anything you say, and genuinely be yourself and be respectful of people that you might disagree with. Those are
Yeah.
all things he does. He can have on a communist one episode and then a hardcore Navy SEAL conservative the next. And he never talks shit about the other with one another.
Mm.
It's a, each episode is a compartmentalized, its own little universe. And whether you like it or not, I objectively watched him go from
Yeah.
he used to be on Ustream, which I don't even know if that website exists anymore, to getting signed for $100 million. So
Yeah.
anything that you vibed with through my podcast is because I just watched him and I went, and it's kind of funny because that those four things are the easiest things to do.
Yeah.
Requires no planning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. To Omnology though, there's actually kind of a similarity with that. And that the most successful thing, you know, don't censor yourself. I don't even remember what the four I just said were. Don't censor yourself. Don't talk shit about anyone. Be okay with anybody. And just, I don't know, be a good, whatever the fuck they were.
Well, I think compartmentalizing each episode too, like yourself, it gave him and gives him the freedom to talk about any topic
Yes.
because even though they may be interrelated and interwoven with one another, because they are compartmentalized, he can create the freedom to
Yeah.
cover, say, both sides of the story,
Yeah.
and that just doesn't happen often enough. And I think that's where what you're doing is very, very similar, but because you're not Joe Rogan, you're Tommy Carrigan, it is a different show. And you said actually in a few podcasts before, and actually it might have been the Howard Bloom one, the most recent one there, where if you're interviewing the same sort of person, like I think there was like 3 people from the military, one after the other, it's all going to start to sound the same, and the same sorts of things will come up again and again and again, and that gets probably really boring for everyone because there's only so many questions you can ask, and there's only so many answers you can give. So that's where Omnology is so fascinating, because there is effectively one question, but it creates a platform to ask 1,000 questions and get 1,000 different answers.
But which are all kind of the same answer, though. It's very,
because it all belongs to the one question, the one answer. It
is what it really is. I always use this example. It's like kindergarten math. If Tommy has 5 bananas and he gives 2 to Alex, how many does he have left? Well, he has 3. If Alex has 2 bikes and he gives 1 to Tommy, how many bikes does he have left? He has 1. Are we learning about bikes or bananas? No, we're learning about math. There's a underlying theme. And so whether you're interviewing Delta Force and they're talking about, I've interviewed one guy who I think he was like, yeah, I remember watching Pablo Escobar through like a sniper rifle. And I was like, Jesus Christ. But like,
wow.
And then you talk about that, and he's talking about, he's like, yeah, and then like, he's like, my balls itched and I lost him for a second, and like I was like, oh fuck. And then you interview Charlie Duke walking on the moon, and he talks about like falling over on his back, and he was like, oh shit. And then like, and then
no one's done this before.
Yeah, fuck. And then so there's just one example. Then you talk to these people who are like doing all this stuff, and they're like, and where's that? You just see like there's the common thread of like, hey, you still fuck up. Like I'm sure Tom Brady stubs his toe. It's just like, oh, God damn it, fuck. Like, I'm sure Donald Trump as president was sitting there and just had like a particularly bad shit and was like, oh God. Like, you have those moments where you gotta wash yourself up and go out there and present yourself, like whether you're the president or you're doing a podcast. So like, to me, that is kind of, there's a beauty of like Omnology and like Joe Rogan is like, it's this massive net that at first seems like, well, you can't talk about one topic. You should be a military podcast. You should be a science. What? No, you throw everything over it. And oddly enough, you just find one common theme through. And then what's cool is like, once you have that giant ball of podcasts, you can then ask one question and you can go and find an answer in each. So like right now, I'd be like, what are the human errors of people? Well, Delta Force guy thinking about shooting Pablo and his balls itch, and then like Charlie Duke falling over on the moon. Like, you have those, and then you could also ask like, what are the most human moments, right? You have Charlie Duke talking about coming back from the moon and then being really depressed because what else is there to do? You have Dale talking about leaving Delta Force, leaving the CIA, and then being like, now what? And you have all these moments. You have these Steve Kirsch who invented the optical mouse. And it's like, well, now what do you do when you're sitting in your mansion with $1 billion in the bank? You can go through each thing and find an answer to each thing across all. Like one of the first like 20 episodes I have, and I was just a powerlifter, this chick named Melissa, talking about like she didn't really know what to do once she like won a medal in her state. She's like, I don't now what? And like, you can find that with everything. So like, and
I think that's actually a really good point that's coming out there. So perhaps what is embedded in that is the inherent danger of focusing so narrowly. And that I think is like one of the really interesting points about the Omnology idea. And that is that I think that is the danger. What are you left with when you hit the bullseye? Another one? Okay, well, that's repeatable. So where does the challenge lie after you've done that? The hardest thing. So if you take on the most complex issue, which is understanding everything, I guess if you get the answer, you're kind of screwed. But
you won't.
the pursuit.
Yeah. Well, there is a brilliance, and I'm yeah. So we'll hit the bullseye again, go to the moon again, okay, but that's not it. So then the next best thing is like, Well, now you know, like the glory is in hitting the bullseye. And so what's truly great is the pursuit. So you'd hit the bullseye, you'd win a Super Bowl. Maybe you leave the NFL and you go to Delta Force. What's the next bullseye? Probably a literal bullseye, watching Pablo through a sniper. Okay. And the next would join the Air Force and be walking on the moon.
Yeah.
And you can go through all these things and then you start to love hitting the bullseye. But then even that, there's like a meta exhaustion there. You're like, okay, well, now I know what the path is. So,
Yeah.
and I always think about this. So what you'd want to do is choose a goal so big that you might actually achieve it. But you don't want something that's so far out that you'll never achieve it. I want to run 1,000 miles without stopping. Okay. I want to be able to do a vertical leap of 30 feet. That's not like kinesiology that just doesn't, you could probably get up there at a certain point. You're not doing it, right? So they're all of these, so you can't set that as a goal. Because if we're laying out that
Well, I don't
people
know.
should,
I think the aid of, say, robotics and
oh, sure, but
some
that's,
sort of.
but that's not like a natural thing. Or like, okay, I want to eat an anvil every day. Like you're not, so you have to like you have to address like the error in the logic of, so like, because the
Mhm.
logic we're saying is you have to choose an unreachable goal, and if it's unreachable, the pursuit is so glorious that you'll just go off into bliss. But that's not true if deep down you know you're never going to achieve that goal. I don't mean something that's hard but doable, like becoming a billionaire. I mean something that's impossible, like I'm going to eat the entire sun. It's just, we're beyond like the realm of rational
Mm.
discussion, right? So what you have to do is you have to like throw a lasso around something that is just, you're just self-delusional enough to go, I might be able to. But you're also rational enough to go, I also don't fucking know if I will. The book House of God by Samuel Shem, that was his pen name. It's a he was a doctor. It's a famous book. It was written in the 70s about going to residency at Harvard and how they were like smoking meth and fucking nurses in the closets and shit. It's wild. And but he talks about, he had this friend, and I think he called him Fats. He was just a brilliant fat kid, this like fat Jewish Harvard kid. He said he's the smartest person he'd ever met. And he finally one day he asked Fats, they're in like residency. Of course, Fats is going on to become like a brain surgeon, like the hardest thing he can do. And he was like, Fats is always trying to like squeeze another dollar out of it. He's like, a brain surgeon makes $1 million a year, but if you become a brain surgeon and a chief of medicine, you make 1.3 a year. Okay, that's a lot. But he's like, Fats, you're so smart. Why are you why are you trying to jump from 1 to 1.3 when you could clearly go be a hedge fund investor and make 100 million? And he was like, because I can master that. He goes,
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
never figure out medicine. You'll always have, there will always be a deeper thing, like understanding genetics and understanding physics. You'll always have a patient that doesn't make it. And he goes, but Fats was also smart enough that like he might actually master medicine. He's like, and he never did, but he practiced it for like 50 years, eventually died. But like he was in bliss because he was just up against the ultimate fight.
Mm.
That's what I think about with Elon Musk, right? He's done a lot of things. Okay. Electric car company. He created a car company during the '08 crisis, right? When which auto companies got bailed out. And he managed to make it profitable, wildly profitable, right? He's got Starlink, he's working on Neuralink, he's got the Boring Company, just he's buying
Yeah.
Twitter. What, and he's worth 300 billion.
PayPal.
Yeah, yeah, PayPal, Zip2. He's worth 300 billion. All
Mm.
right. But what's the big? He wants to fucking make us a multi-planetary species. He might. There's a good chance he will. There's a good chance he won't. But would you say that's impossible that he is going to make us an interplanetary species?
I think, given his description, in terms of the numbers of people involved, I'd say, yeah, it's just not viable.
But
It's not rational if you look at the numbers, but the narrative and the story, the concept is very doable, and I think he will do an element of it. But there won't be 1 million people living on Mars by the year 2050. It's
absolutely not.
practically impossible.
Ab-
Why does he sell? Why does he have that as his narrative though? So
It's it's probably it's probably PR bullshit.
it's an interest.
But okay, let me reword it then. Will the Wright brothers ever develop a double-decker airliner that can cross the ocean? No. But did they get the ball rolling?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. They didn't make the Airbus A380, but you can't deny that that's where it got started. Will Musk have? Probably not. Will he land someone there by 2050? I would say yes. I'd say even that slim. I would not bet my life and say it's 0%. He might throw. I mean, maybe that's not a good character of him. I don't put it above him to just throw people at Mars until somebody lands. Whatever. Let's just abandon morality for a second, right? We're talking about billionaires. We got to abandon morality. You look at it like a psychopath.
Well, there is the issue of coming back.
Well, yeah. We're not talking about that. We're talking about making us a
Right, getting
multi-planetary
there. You were
species,
quite clear.
getting us
Just
there.
getting there.
I never said
Okay,
you're coming
Roger.
back. Fuck, that's on you. I didn't fucking say shit, right? There is a. Would you bet your life that he will not get a single person there by 2050?
No, I think there's pretty good odds that that'll occur.
So he chose the thing that no one would bet their life and say, I don't think he will, but it's pretty improbable he will. To me, that is a form of omnology because you
Right.
can't choose some. Will he ever? Will he have a million people on Pluto by 2025? Absolutely fucking not. I'll take that bet a million times. Yeah, I will
Mm,
bet my life. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
a millionaire now. I wouldn't 2050. It's got that's 28 years. It's a long time. One person? Yeah, maybe. I don't know if they're coming back. I don't know if they're going to live for more than 3 days. Will someone do a great? This is a large step for mankind on Mars by 2050. He's got 300 billion, and he's got an internet system in space, and he's hooking up fucking Neuralink systems to pigs. Yeah, I'm not. I don't have the balls to say he won't. To me, that's pursuing medicine. That
Hmm.
is that is the bliss. You might. And to me, there's something in there. And it's a very
Yeah.
fine line. You don't want to choose go to the moon by 2050. I don't
But
freaking do that.
see, even that clearly isn't enough for Musk because, as you say, he's got the Boring Company, so
Yeah.
he's doing tunneling, he's building vehicles, he's doing a whole bunch of different stuff, which is, I guess, keeping his mind busy.
I th-
I think,
I think everything he's doing here is actually a dry run for Mars.
right,
How do you escape the radiation? You go underground. Why do you want autonomous vehicles? Well, you can't afford to have car crashes on Mars. What about internet? Well, instead of relay towers, what about just a circling, have it
yeah,
orbiting internet? I don't know. What about
solar
yeah?
energy, yeah,
To me, it looks like he's just wargaming Mars here.
right,
What else is he doing? What else is he doing? He's space-based internet. Noted. He's
yeah,
hitting all of it. Self-landing rockets. What could that be for? Right? So that's kind of how I look at it. He's in bed with
hmm,
the DoD. So they're gonna want something there too. They always do, right?
yeah,
I mean, even the space shuttle had a lot of modifications that were made to the dismay of NASA because the Air Force said it has to be capable of carrying a nuke. That's why it was that's why I had a school bus size thing. It wasn't for
hmm,
telescopes. They wanted it smaller. But the Air Force was like, hey, we need you to be able to fit that. Like, it's a civilian agency. You shut your fucking mouth. Do you want this money or not? But we're gonna no, yeah. I get it. It's a space shuttle. No. The International Space Station's great. We also had plans for ones far before that were gonna have weapons on them. The Russians put up Salyut 22, which had an
yeah,
anti-aircraft gun on it in space. No one ever knows that. No one ever talks about the fact that there have been weapons in space before. The Russians put an anti-aircraft. They never fired it because they realized they'd blow them out of orbit. But like the DoD wants, and so if the DoD is going to get what they want anyway, well, then what other way to align yourself with? Hey, I'm going to go. Do you want a foot part of the bill? Well,
yeah,
we do kind of want a foot part of the bill. Do you want China to beat us there? No, I don't want China to beat us
yeah,
there. Yeah, you're right. So maybe I'll just say you got some intel and you can map it out. I don't know. We can also map out some possible places for military bases. Well, I guess that sounds like a good idea, right? So he's now the biggest contractor for the DoD in terms of space.
right, yeah.
it's where it's all going. So will he see it all? I don't know, but he might. And I think there's genius in there. If anything, just to satisfy your own hunger.
Yeah.
Because you keep hitting the bullseye. What the fuck else do you do? If you're the richest man in the world, there's not a whole lot more bullseyes.
I think that that would be a great description for why, like, say, I like the stock market, is because like there's an infinite number of companies being created and destroyed again and
Yeah.
again and again. There's so much to learn. It's never the same. Yeah, there's repeatable patterns, but you got to be careful of those patterns because they do change,
Yeah.
and they change on a whim. And it's that collective consciousness that drives the markets. The power of greed and fear. I love how they move,
Yeah.
and that I could never get bored. Never get bored of trading the old stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I love it.
it's a video game that you can't beat. And that's fantastic. Because there's nothing when you play in a video game, there's nothing you're grinding more. You're like, I want to reach the top level, I want to beat the boss. And then you finish it and you're like, well, now what? So it's
Well,
this
see,
weird.
yeah, Ray Dalio, he's just given up control of Bridgewater Associates there, and that's been what 47 years in the making. And one of the things that he mentioned on his way out is like, I will still be trading, I'll still be investing because it's in essence something that I could never ever get bored of, and I can really relate to that. Yeah, there's just so much going on all of the time.
You ever watch? I haven't watched it in years, but did you ever watch Family Guy?
Yeah, a little bit
Do
occasionally.
you remember what's Peter's wife, Lois? Lois's dad, Mr. Peter Schmidt. He's like a billionaire, right? Just an old curmudgeon. And they're worried because he had like a heart attack when he's working or something, right? He's just like the archetypical, he's right, the CEO at the top of the tallest tower in Manhattan or whatever the fuck. And they're like, we need a retired dad. He's working too hard. And they take him out and they kind of hand over the reins of the company to the board, and he starts aging really fast.
Hmm.
Starts getting like dementia. He's like wearing slippers. He's like forgetting where he is. And they're like, oh my God. And finally, like Brian's like, I don't think it's the money. I think he just thrives in an office.
Yeah.
And so they bring him back in there and they're like, Daddy, come back. Like, I want dad back. And he sits in the chair and like the phone's ringing. He sees the stock market and he slowly starts coming out of dementia and he goes, minorities complain too much. We have too many immigrants, and they go, "Dad's back," because he's just like he's just this evil old GOP archetype, and he starts. He's like, kids these days don't have what they want. And he's like, civil rights is bad. He's like, only men should vote. And they're like, Dad, you're back. And it's like, but it's like that's his pulse.
Yeah.
He comes back. And yeah, I
Hmm.
don't. Even if this podcast exceeded beyond my wildest dreams, there would always be like a guest I couldn't land. And if I land them
Hmm.
all, there will always be a combination of guests I can't land. Right. I'll never get Anthony Fauci and Alex Jones together,
Right.
but maybe. I've talked to Alex Jones and I have spoken with Fauci's secretary. It's never I can't get them on. But Rogan, maybe that's what keeps him going, is having Alex Jones with Anthony Fauci. Like, thank you for having me on, Joe. And it's like, you're a goddamn demon. You're a pedophile, interdimensional alien. You're raping the kids. Hillary Clinton's a reptile. Like,
That's a really good impersonation.
but that if anyone could do it, if anyone could, I mean, like Rogan, if I can Photoshop pretty well. If I photoshopped and you weren't on the internet, you didn't see it trending, and I just sent you like a perfectly done Joe Rogan Spotify thumbnail, same font, same color, and it was just a thumbnail of like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Alex Jones, and smoking a blunt. You'd shit your pants because there's like a fraction of a percent of you that would go, "There's no way," because he has, right? He can have on Bernie Sanders and talk about gun control and access to Medicare, and then he can have Elon Musk smoking a blunt, and then he can have Alex Jones screaming about interdimensional vampires and off-world intelligence. There's a non-zero chance. Like if someone showed me that, I might I might get rickrolled. I might go, oh my God, no way. To me, that's like an excitement. Is I want to get to that level where if I were to text you and go, dude, I just had on Hillary Clinton. She got so fucked up she made out with Putin. I want to get to the point where people go, no, you didn't. Like, I actually want there to be an air of like, I don't know if he did it or not. If I said I did it now, it's shut the fuck. If you said, dude, Rogan just had on Hillary Clinton with Putin and they were kind of flirting. I don't know. I I would say no, that didn't happen. But if I were Rogan, I would want to get to a point where fuck the contracts. I would want a podcast get so big that if you told me Bill Murray took acid and shit his pants, I would actually have to go check and see whether or not he did. And then if he did, like, not be that surprised. Be like, this seems like a due course of events. Like, I don't know how the fuck we got on there. What are we talking about? How did I get here?
Well, what popped into my mind as you're talking there is I want to say be careful what you say because it can come true, but you've also got to be careful what you say because if you say it the wrong way, this is just like what I believe, you can also make it not happen. So the universe is listening.
Yeah.
Always. So if you sow the seeds of doubt, that's what you'll get. If you sow the seeds of confidence, you'll get the yield. So yeah, if there's someone that you want on the podcast, don't yell out to the universe that hey, that'll never happen. Go for the second round pick. Go for the first round pick, and it will happen.
Maybe it's reverse psychology. Maybe I'm bluffing to the universe. I'm like, nah, universe, you're pretty cool. It's a pretty cool simulation. But you don't have the balls to have Alex Jones and Donald Trump doing coke together. I want the universe to say, hold my beer. All right, fucker. Watch this shit.
Yeah, I like
Alex,
that.
This is some great yayo. Like, listen, Mr. President, I know you tried your hardest. Like, I want to see that and like be uncomfortable and be like, oh, holy shit, you know? That's what I want to see. Like, I think the universe does tempt us. I think it does scare us. It was like, you thought World War II was bad? You know, they called the World War One before it was called World War One. It was called the Great War, right? The war to end all wars. Universe is like, all right, World War II.
The
right?
Dutch back in the 1700s only knew of white swans until they got to Australia and they saw their first black swan.
Yeah.
Until then, there were no black swans.
They're just swans.
Yeah.
Well, they're just white swans. They were just
right.
They weren't white swans. They're
even
swans.
simpler. Just
right?
It's just swans, right?
right. So we get to World War II, right? World War II. It's World War II. All right. I guess we'll never know something bigger than that. All right. Let's hold my Cuban cigar. Here's the Cuban Missile Crisis. 90 miles off the coast. It can't get crazier than that. All right. How about a year later, the president gets domed in Dallas? All right. I don't think it can get crazier than that. Nah, fuck it. 6 years after that, let's go walk on the moon. Like, okay, I don't know how much crazier this is going to get, right? In a way, I think the universe does like to keep upping the ante. We're swearing like a sailor, talking about the most inappropriate stuff in the world, and then a child in a diaper comes in, and I have to shut my. All right, you got that in. I have to. All right, good. Well, I didn't know that. The universe just called my bluff. I just shit my pants.
If that was on the speakers, he would have told you, "Hey, don't say that."
Yeah, but there we go. Is that not? Did we not just get a kind of like a smack across the face? Like,
totally.
Get some. You flex nuts, I'll kick the shit out of you. Right? I just tried to call somebody's bluff and got a black eye. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I've always thought like, what would be the best interview ever? I don't know. I mean, there's kind of like low hanging fruit. It'd be like an old CIA official saying like, "We killed Kennedy," but even you can't really believe that. You'd be like, "This is a psyop."
Right.
It'd have to be.
Yeah.
It would have to be. It'd have to be a current president. It'd have to be Biden or something. And I think it would have to be the acknowledgement of alien life. And using Rogan as like a dissemination point. Because if you just kind of, I guess you go full official, right? All the TV channels change to one thing. It's like the presidential seal, kind of like the movie trope. It was today that I would, announce contact with alien. But that's not an interview. I think it would have to be that. That would be like, what do you think could be the biggest moment, like captured on an interview?
How about like a Matrix type revelation? Like, oh my gosh, it is a simulation.
Oh, like they actually start to like manifest things. Like Rogan just makes an apple appear in his hand or something.
Right, right.
Well,
And
even
then
that though, because but
Mr.
then
Smith appears in the background.
yeah, but even then you would start saying, "Oh, this is just deep fake," right? I think it would have to be because that's kind of like magic trick.
I don't know if everyone starts testing the theory and what they think starts to appear. I think that that would change things forever.
I think if you had like the second coming of Christ, and
That
not
would do
even
it
in some
too.
like comical sense, but just some guy that looked like you or me, and he just started performing miracles on Rogan.
Or a rapture where, like, all of a sudden, there's half the
You,
population is gone.
and then it's just us left, just like, oh, so we're
Just us.
well. If you're watching this podcast, sorry, welcome to hell. What that would
That'd be quite shocking.
I'm if like 9/11 had happened and like now, that would be kind of wild, right? Someone would like bring it up to Rogan and he'd be like, "What?" And they like pull it up and they'd be like, "Holy shit!" Right?
Right.
Those are still surreal when you go and watch those
Mm,
news clips where it's like,
yeah.
and we're coming to you live. It looks like a small plane. And it's all the same. A small plane has, and then there's the oh my god, right? And there's like
Yeah.
another one, and then you have that moment of realization. You go, oh, we're at war, or who is the other one? Was the famous one? Oh my God, there's another one. It's like the most famous one. He goes, oh my God, he goes, I think this is on purpose. Those are those are wild. COVID
Mm.
COVID came on slowly. It wasn't a plane hitting a building. I think that, and I don't need a visit from the FBI, but I think like an assassination, like if the JFK happened, or even like a Reagan, like an attempt, if the president
Mm.
was shot but survived, that might still go down. I would have thought the
Well, I
invasion of
think
you.
Putin's tempting fate right now with that
Yeah.
sort of
Oh,
carry on.
dude. Oh, dude. So I started a gaming channel with my friends back in like February, and we just called it the Petro Patriarchy. Because I was just like, what would be like the most incendiary term? And I was just trying to think of like what people hate, and I'd be like, well, it'd be like fossil fuels and like males. So Petro Pat, and the logo is John Bolton as Colonel Sanders. So it's John Bolton with like a I don't know why. I was like it needs to be there's no rationale but there's no deeper meaning. Like what does that mean? There is no meaning. It's John Bolton just a kind of war criminal with he's just wearing like a whatever, a Colonel Sanders-esque apron. That's not important though. What is important is so we were doing like and these episodes are terrible. We just stream video games, we're just playing. It's just all bullshit. There's no edits. The episodes go on for 9 hours. It's just retarded, but they're funny. Um, and we're watching one and we're playing one night and like the invasion of Ukraine starts. And
Right.
that was kind of surreal watching that. And we're watching these like live YouTube chats and it's like, oh shit. And it's like moving to like webcams and stuff. And you see kind of explosions going off. And that was wild.
Mm.
But we're watching this webcam and it's like 11 o'clock like 11 p.m. And so it's like whatever, like sunrise there. And we're watching this one webcam and it's like the sky is slowly changing as it gets like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., right? Kind of get that light pink. My blood turned to ice when the sun first rose. I thought it was a fucking nuclear flash. I, I just like time slow. I remember watching that and I just was like, and I was like, this is how it starts and it's going to be over very
Mm.
quick. The whole thing's over. Like the first thought was like, I need to like tell my parents I love them. It was like one in the morning. Probably would have shot me if I called them, right? But that was wild, and it ended up just being the sunrise. But like everyone in the you could even the super chat like froze, and then just was like, "Oh my god!" Oh my! Everybody was like, "There's like this max exhalation." Everyone was like, "Jesus Christ!" And like, but that was right. That was kind of inching towards the Putin tempting fate. I don't know what would be.
Well, I think with a country so divided, I mean, it's he's riding a knife edge every
Oh
day.
yeah. Oh yeah.
50% of the population love it. 50% of the population despise it. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess that's typically what's occurring in a democracy when you've got two parties to vote for, just like in, say, Canada or the US. There's really only two to choose from,
Yeah.
but um, at least there's freedom to speak about everything from both sides, as opposed to one side being suppressed. So yeah, completely different kettle of fish over there, which is very unfortunate.
Do you think it would be bigger if do you think it would be bigger if China invaded Taiwan? I feel like that would be a little heavier. Not to make light of a lot of innocent people dying in Ukraine and Russia, but I feel like China invading Taiwan, that one
I
feels a
think
little
it's
that feels a little heavier to me. I don't know why.
hmm,
Maybe it's because
I think it's
there's
different.
there's water in between. That's kind of one. It seems a little more like premeditated. Not to say that like putting armaments on the side of Ukraine and then going, but it's kind of different if it's land going across like the seas. I guess then they've kind of been talking about it for like 50 years. What would happen? Would we would we so overtly back Taiwan? Because like if you don't, that sets a precedent. That would be the signaling that we are no longer the hegemon of the world, right? Right after World War II, it's flex nuts. All right, you blockaded Berlin. Here comes the Berlin airlift. A plane landing every 30 seconds, right? Uh, there's power behind us invading Iraq. No one else really approves of it, but and it's not good. But using it as an example, we did it and no one really said anything. That is that's an exhibition of power. So as much as like I don't want to see us involved in more wars, I also understand that you can't just like watch Russia invade Ukraine because you have to take the good with the bad, right? If you want to be the hegemon, if you want to be America, no, it's okay if Norway watches passively. They're Norway. If we want to be big dick America, you can't you can't passively watch. And you don't have to get involved, but that also means that you're not kind of deferred to as big man on campus. So if we didn't back Taiwan immediately, that would signal, even if nothing else happened and no one else invaded, it would be the precedent set that you can now throw your weight around. And it might not happen for another 10 years that India invades Pakistan or whatever, but it would certainly happen. You would see the chink in the armor, right? You punched the big guy and he didn't hit you back. Well, now everyone starts to start feeling their oats like, oh, I can start throwing around my weight, right? When you remove a power source, Saddam Hussein, the Politburo in Moscow, power fills a vacuum, right? Cartels form in, warring tribes come in, oligarchs come in, start selling all the old Soviet weapons. Which then, which one's worse? Having Saddam was bad. Would less people have died if he wasn't taken out? I don't know. And that's easy for me to say, who's never been affected by Saddam. I've known nothing but opportunity and freedom and safety and healthcare. But what's the lesser of the evils? Do we, if they invade Taiwan, do we step up and push them back? Or do we say we don't want to get involved because we don't want to lose American lives? But does this then turn into appeasing Hitler? Just give them Poland. The next thing you know, it's, well, now you got to go invade Normandy. And now we don't want to invade Japan, so we're going to drop a nuke on a city of women and children. So it's like you either pay the $1 bill today or you pay $1.25 tomorrow with interest. And if you can't bring yourself to pay today because it costs too much, what are you
Well, I
doing
think
tomorrow?
that's why facts are so important when talking about these sorts of things.
Yeah.
There's so much to consider.
I don't know. Yes, is it the? And obviously, I can't not be biased. The literal flag hanging behind me. You know, if I were to,
Well, I wasn't gonna say.
if I were to just throw out an opinion based on whatever, block out the flag. You know, not talking for America, but right. And there's bias there, right? I'm clearly talking about, well, we're the lesser of evils. Huh? What a coincidence. The guy with the flag who was born in the United States is talking about how we're the. I get the irony. Not saying that you were calling me out. I'm just in general. But I mean, is there a lesser of evils to? I don't know. I mean, do you keep the
I
world
think
as is, sort of taped together with bubblegum and band-aids and take it as that for all of its flaws? Or do you go, hey, let's see what happens? And then 80 million people die.
I think attempting to realize common goals and aspirations and using that as a path to some sort of global unity is critical.
Sure.
Because every time we talk about the differences, I think it's important to celebrate the differences, but also at the same time celebrate the common attributes, because we are all human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's to bring this full circle back to the
Omnology.
genius of the beast. Well, that too. There are really fundamental things that drive us all as human beings, and I think that's why you see capitalism being the mechanism that what's the word? Oh, what's the saying? It gosh, I've lost it.
You're good.
It what is it? It's to do with like raising all of the boats at the
It's
same
the
time. How does that one go? It
yeah, I
lifts
think
the
it was
tide lifts all
JFK. The
boats or
rising tide
something.
lifts all boats. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the positive effect that capitalism has wherever it's deployed effectively and rationally and in an unmanipulated mechanism that has the most effect on human lives. And I think um, when we look at, say, China and how many people live in China and what it was like, say, 40 or 50 years ago for the average person living in China, and we forward step those 50 years to today, and we look at like 600 million people living in China now are classified as, say, middle class. So living a very similar lifestyle and living standard as your average American. I think that's a phenomenal effort. And that didn't come about just using one mechanism.
Yeah.
So it's very complex society, and it's not just the machine of capitalism at work there. There is very much an organized economy. However, they've utilized some very typical capitalist type ideas, and it's free to operate to a point. So if we look at, say, Britain and the US and Australia and other countries like that, how it's more, I guess, a traditional capitalist society, and how effective it is as raising the living standard. I think this is one of the things that really leaps out in the book, The Genius of the Beast, in your interview with Howard, is that there is no other system that has done more good for the average person.
Yeah.
And yeah, it might look a bit funky where you've got people like Elon Musk with $300 billion
Sure.
to spare and a kid down the road who's got nothing.
Nothing.
But if you went back 2, 3, 500, 1,000 years, 2,000, 5,000 years, it was the same thing. The same discrepancies occur. And I think they always will, because not everyone makes the same decisions.
Yeah.
And that is the freedom of a human being to make good decisions and bad. And I think the trick is to learn from those and to apply that experience in a positive manner, as opposed to dwelling on the mistakes and kind of like throwing your fist in the air and going, oh, the world is against me, the system is corrupt, or like it doesn't work for me. It's like, well, it doesn't work for you unless you use it.
Yeah.
And I think the trick to that is education. So I tend to agree on both sides. It is the system, it is corrupt, it is holding you down, but there is a way to get out of it. It's just that not everyone either sees the path because they aren't told there is one, and worse, they're told there isn't one on purpose.
Yeah.
That it is evil, it is an oppressive system, and I think, frankly, it's not, but it can be. So I think I've been very lucky to, I guess, escape that system and that cycle and use it to my advantage. And I say that because like no one ever taught me how like the monetary system works or economies work. I had to learn that myself,
I didn't
and I
learn that
learned
until
that from
last
the
year.
mistakes. Eh?
I didn't learn like how the Fed operated until summer 2021.
Right,
I'm
right,
32 years old.
right. Yeah, yeah. I certainly didn't learn it at high school, and looking back, and I'm 44, I wish I did.
Yeah.
That would have been really important information.
Yeah.
These are the systems and mechanisms that are at play here, young kids. This is how you use the system. These are the mechanisms that you need to be careful of. These are the ones that you need to exploit. And this is how magical the system is, because if you play by these rules, anything is possible. And I think that's why the USA ends up becoming this bastion of hope for all of these countries all over the world. And it really doesn't matter whether it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party at the helm, it's
Sure.
still seen as the bastion of hope. Um, it's really, really interesting. And you just got to look at places around the world where the American flag gets waved. There's a reason for that. Other countries might not like that or might not
Sure.
understand that and might poke fun at America for being some sort of
Rah
um,
rah, we're the best.
yeah, or like it's got to be the Americans' way, and the Americans just have to invade, or they just have to install some kind
Yeah.
of regime in a foreign country to make everything continue to go round, and it's to just the Americans' benefit. I think there's an element of truth to that,
Sure.
but I think it would be naive to also not accept that there's a lot of what America does that holds the world together, and that's unfortunate, but it is real though too. It doesn't have to be that way,
Sure.
and I would argue that there were probably a couple of million children in Iraq that didn't have to die because of the invasion in Iraq. They the military forces probably didn't have to blow up all of the water treatment plants or the power plants in Iraq to get to Saddam, but
Probably
they did.
probably didn't need a carpet bomb Vietnam and kill 5 million Indo-Chinese.
Bingo, right? But it happened. So that's the facts. That's the reality. What do we do with it tomorrow? Is the question. Do we improve upon our decision making and seek alternate choices if they are available? And those should be the choices that um, um, we strive to pursue at all costs, unless there is no other choice. I think that's where it gets dangerous, is that it's very easy to say, there's no other choice. Press the
On it.
button, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very
Yeah.
difficult, especially if that's what you've known for generations, that's what works,
Yeah.
because that's the easy card to play. And I think America cops a lot of flack for that. But it's see, I like to learn both sides of the story, and I think growing up in New Zealand, which is where I'm from originally, um, there's very much a sentiment towards America which is not positive at all. Um, and I think it's, um, I appreciate that sentiment, but I also appreciate that it's very, very naive. And until you get out of New Zealand and you start to look around, it becomes apparent that there's a very important role that's being played here. And yeah, okay, America doesn't get it right all the time, but it's in a pretty difficult situation where all eyes are on America for the most part. So you're going to make a mistake. Lots of countries make mistakes. All countries make mistakes, but we don't talk about all of them the same way we do America. So yeah, there's a lot of focus on you Americans.
Yeah.
You're very active internationally, aren't you?
Yeah. You and I don't get critiqued the same as the president. The president wears a different color tie, and there's 9 people on nationally syndicated news channels talking about what is the coded meaning. I can do this podcast and no one knows if I'm wearing pants. It's not an equal level of critique, right? Hey, hold it down real quick. I go to the bathroom, but I do want to.
Yeah.
I have a couple comments on that I want to bring up. So I don't just
Yeah.
monologue.
Yep. Right on. Ah, yes, America, land of the free, home of the brave. I think you have to be given the setup. What do you do with all of that power and ability? It's easy to be tempted with all of that power. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think that's how it goes, isn't it? Trying to monologue. Can't say I do this very often. This is a book that you should read, and perhaps you should also interview this woman. Consciousness came up earlier on in the conversation. So, Annika Harris, I think that interview would be pretty darn cool. That's all I got. I'm going to have another drink. Pause. I did monologue there for a little bit, but then I ran out of stuff to say.
Oh, you will be judged.
You'll have to watch it, but Consciousness, Annika Harris. See if you can get hold of her.
Send me a text and
Cool. Yeah, right on. She copped a lot of flack from scientific community for writing that book. Yeah, totally.
More flack you catch, the better.
I think from what I've seen, she's more right and they're more wrong. So yeah, totally. Middle finger to those.
I just don't care. Fuck everybody. I in general, I just kind of fuck everybody. I mean, so long as I'm not physically harming anybody or like exposing myself to children, like fuck off. Fuck off. Catch a lot
of whatever you want.
Eat a dick. Fucking retard. Yeah. But and again, it's very hard to not be biased as someone in the United States, right? But you know, I have a lot of friends that kind of studied abroad in college. I never did because I was studying to get into medical school, and you know, a lot of them would say, you know, America's not the best, which is fine. I don't know that to be objectively false. I have no idea. If I knew that answer, I'd be a genius, and I'd be also worth $300 billion. But and then you kind of get just like this, and this is kind of maybe me as more of a conservative leaning guy. I don't know if this is my own sort of like, oh, you fucking hippies. But they're like, you know, the more like you find that the people who haven't left America are the ones that love it the most, and the people that have traveled more are the ones that love it the least. And so those who have spent more time outside of America see it for what it truly is. Okay, so let's walk along that line of logic. That would mean people who have spent their entire lives outside of it and make it the culminating goal of their life to get here. What does that imply? If we're going on the logic, right? If we're going on more time spent outside of it gives you a better clarification of it, well, then we have to follow that out to the nth degree. And those who have spent all the time outside of it are seeing it most clearly. So I
Yeah,
looked at
totally get what you're saying.
well,
Yeah,
I'm just using my own example. My buddy
yeah,
Prince Blackosh from Kosovo. His dad was a journalist who had his arms and legs broken during the war with Serbia because he published
right.
some unflattering news. Prince first came here in 2014. That's where I met him. He had a green card, and Prince was working about 90-hour weeks.
Mm,
I invited him over to my family's house one day before work. We both did security, and he was like taking Instagram photos in front of our house because to show off to his friends in Kosovo because we had a garage door.
yeah,
He
right.
took a photo in front of the refrigerator because it was full.
Yeah,
Okay. My other buddy Ivan from Sofia, Bulgaria, left his family, left everyone to get a green card to come work here. Same city. It was in Ocean City, Maryland. This was in 2011. He would work. We both work all night, and then I'd be, at the end of a night of working security at a bar till 3 a.m. Ivan would change shirts and go to the next bar that opened at 4 a.m. And that's what he would do till he finally too got a citizenship, came here. Now he's a professional bodybuilder out in Vegas, hardest working guy I know, maybe only behind Prince, who came here, got a citizenship, became a physical therapist, lives in a nice place in Manhattan, now has a wife and kids. He is the American dream. So it's not even for me and my own butthurt ego. It's when I look at them
yeah,
literally, and not an idea, not an article I read about, seeing them, their eyes watering because I brought them a turkey sandwich
yeah.
and I didn't even bring it to him. I just had an extra. Who made it? Your mom. How do I pay her? What are you talking about? If this was gonna go bad anyway, we're gonna throw it out. You order my brother. I tell my family about you. Seeing that firsthand, sure, you know that's that's convenient for me, the pro America guy. Okay, I'll give you that. But if I'm gonna walk out that logic, okay, well, okay, that's two examples. What's the third? All right, Ernesto, the first generation immigrant from Mexico, came here. Parents are day laborers. He went through, got a private education, worked on Obama's campaign. For all the critiques of America, he'll also sit here and say, like, it's better than anything else on the planet. So, like, I can only go on those examples. Now, sure, those are perfect examples that could be cut and pasted as propaganda. I get that. I know that I know the flaws of that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be sick to live somewhere else, but it's like
Well, yeah, I think you could just cut and paste that whole story and then put
put it
in
on the State
whatever
Department. Yeah,
Western. Well, you could put in almost any Western country,
sure,
and that
sure,
narrative is the same.
sure.
Didn't always be that. Wasn't always that way. And I think America, as I was saying before, attracts a lot of attention, so it becomes this kind of beacon of hope that everyone knows about, and maybe it's seen as this place that. Not so much quite easy to get into, but is quite inviting. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of immigrants that turn up to the shores of New Zealand that have left war-torn countries from exactly the same countries
Sure.
that you just mentioned, with exactly the same story. And there's a fridge full there too that someone is just ogling over, like, wow, like this
Yeah.
is amazing. You should have seen what I've just come from. And I mean that happens in dozens upon dozens of countries. So it's not that
Oh,
America
I
is
know.
the
Yeah,
only
I know it's not
right,
an
but
American
I
exception.
like your I like your story though, in that there's a reason why people see America as that place to go, and it's not illegitimate. There's a reason for it. It's because it's true.
Yeah, and it's that also doesn't mean that we're not immune from criticism.
I
Like
mean, I'm pretty sure Canada was involved in the Iraq War just the same as America. Yet
Belgium was.
there's Iraqis turning up on the border of Canada hoping to come in.
Yeah,
There's they're arriving all of the time because they love Canada,
yeah,
just the same as they're turning up in America because
sure.
they love America because it's better than where they came from potentially. I mean, I would go to Iraq because I think it's a beautiful country, beautiful people. I don't know about you, but I've met lots of Iraqis and they're amazing.
I think
I
I'd be
mean, I've
sunburned, but
right,
I'm pretty white.
but
No,
there's
yeah,
some
I know, I get you.
pretty amazing places out
Sure.
there, and everyone's got something to offer, and I think it's um, I think it's important that we look at I think the things that we have in common and find that unity. So there are fewer reasons to bombard and attack
Yeah.
because there's friends next door that if you press that button, you you've got some connection to it.
Yeah.
It's not just someone you've never met. It's
Yeah.
like
Someone
yeah, it
over
might be
there.
someone you haven't met, but they know your brother and they know your sister, or they also work for the company that's down the road. Like that interconnectedness is effectively going to make it impossible to some degree to have any global conflict unfold because we're all going to know one another. I think that's the path that we're on. And I think that's why we can't isolate countries like China,
Yeah.
um, because I think as soon as we do that, it's game on. That is when they will take countries like Taiwan. And that's the game, it's that perceived threat. If they perceive that
Hmm.
a foreign um, control of Taiwan is imminent and their well-being is at stake, if that occurs, then of course they're going to do what's natural.
Yeah.
Anyone would.
It's it's the
It's not
argument.
that they're crazy. It's because that's rational.
I mean,
That is logical,
what
a
did we
logical
do in
path.
1962 with Cuba? They got
Right.
close. So what did we do? Fuck off.
Look at Russia and NATO, right? It's the same thing.
That's the yeah,
Now, I
no,
think
I feel for them. I've had on Ukrainian refugees, but I also get the argument of like, hey, Cuba at least was 90 miles of ocean. Ukraine's touching the border and it's got US biolabs there and they want NATO. I can't say Kennedy is a genius peacemaker and then turn around and say, fuck you.
right.
And I
Yeah.
also, yeah, of course I'm on Team America, but like, what else would China do? Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
And
they? Like,
I think
rationally, you have to drop
putting
that. Yeah.
putting ourselves in other people's shoes and trying to understand what they might be feeling is really important.
I think that's so like we can talk, right? I mean, we can, and I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm saying you and the general you talk about how important it is for world peace and kumbaya and get it, got it. I sure understand that. You know, I had a friend of mine who, we always fuck with each other because, we're on different political sides. We're still best friends. I remember one day he asked me, he's like, what? He's like, what do you actually believe? He's like, you're a conservative guy, but he's like, you meditate every day, like you tout the beauty of like psychedelics and like universal love. And I'm like, yeah, I know those don't go hand in hand, right? I get it. Um, but
But why can't they? There seems to be this perception that you've got to keep them separate
yeah,
and that we've got to stay separate too. We
yeah,
can't we
you
can't
can't,
yeah, I
you
blew
can't,
those lines
yeah,
too. People
you,
find me really confusing as
yeah.
well.
Well, I think that's why people come to this podcast because they don't understand
Right.
it. I will interview a Delta Force guy and then a guy running for Congress as a Republican, and then I'll fucking shoot the shit with Howard Bloom for the 10th time. like that? Huh? What? But like, right? It's but kind of what I told him was basically what you and I have talked about. It was like I think that we have a ton of flaws, and they're not even all when we make accidents. No, I think there are some conscious and willing demons alive in America, dead, and more to come. I think that's
Mm.
the CIA, corporations just pillaging other nations, and from like the banana wars in like the late 1800s and 1900s to like the Caribbean incursions with Smedley Butler and China. Bad shit in the grand scheme of just like the brutal reality of what we are. We are carbon-based life forms that ingest proteins, fats, and what I say, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and fluids and nutrients. And we need rest, we need shelter. We can't survive a certain amount of force, whether it's falling from a building or getting a spear through our head. We fuck, we reproduce, we like, pleasures, again, to acquire calories so that we don't starve to death. We like to rest, we like to achieve beauty. You don't want to have to spend too much energy trying to warm up or to cool down, and we try to make things easier for us, and then seems to be a common trait that we also sacrifice for the next ones after us, and it happens in space time on a rock around a star. Like
Totally.
that's kind of like a quick 60-second briefing. Hey, here you are, here's the simulation, this is where we are, go, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it
It,
is.
if humans weren't here, the system in itself is doing exactly that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just in a, it just looks different.
So I always kind of look at things like that. And it's like, from what we understand, we came out of the trees, right? And we started walking upright using opposable thumbs, using handheld objects to break things, and then throwable objects. We mastered fire, cooking, agricultural revolution, writing, or language. I mean, language is insane. We forget about that. We then developed a way to do, as Terence McKenna calls, telepathy. I think of something, I make noises with my mouth and throat and tongue. It goes through the air. You receive it. You know the same English language as me, so you're able to decrypt it. And now, instead of like having to like grab you and walk you over and like point towards like water, and you go, "Oh yeah, I also want a drink." Instead, I can go, "Alex, are you thirsty?" You go, "Yeah." I go, "I got some water in the fridge." Like that's telepathy. All right, so there are some huge steps, right? And then next you so and then writing language, so it doesn't have to be an oral tradition of passing down new knowledge to the next generation. Now you don't have to learn, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can literally go, oh no, my dad showed me that, right? So now I don't have to learn how to build a silicon chip. I was born into, I have an iMac, right?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know how an iPhone works, but I don't need to, right? So written language is huge because it doesn't just have to be oral tradition. So now you're passing down cumulative information. So it's like
Mm.
replaying a video game. You get better and better and better at it. And it allows you to expand more and more. And then as you move away from survival, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, water, nutrients, shelter, sex, and procreation, you can start to kind of go for greater and greater things, maybe alleviating the pain of others. Or in the form of
Hmm.
capitalism, genius is the beast. You can go for your own self enrichment, which also tends to push the machine forward. Okay, so now we're moving through. All right, now you have pharaohs, now you have kings, now you have still a pretty small percentage of people with any sort of moderate luxury or just at least well-being. And then you move towards like moving the even just the beginning of like moving the Bible out of Latin to just like what the average person could read, to the printing press, disseminating
Yeah.
information, moving forward, modern medicine, late 1800s, Joseph Lister start using antiseptic. So we're moving towards this thing, but then 200 years before that is 1700s, the revolution. And now a fucking wild idea of like, what if we all had a say in what we did? And now we've developed and we've somehow America, and for all of its flaws, man, that fucking manifest destiny, that delusion, killing all the Indians, Andrew Jackson. I'm sure I make jokes about dude committed genocides. We took over the entire United States, our own wars of aggression, past, present, and future. We have World War II, where we start to see the mechanization of forces. We're now Germany, as Norm Macdonald would say, Germany's wild because it's a country the size of Maine that tried to take over the world, and they almost did. And like, okay, that's insane. So now there's that technological disproportion where now this little tiny country can create a mechanized system of camps and try to eradicate people and tattoo it on the. All right, power's a huge thing. We get the A bomb. Thank fuck it wasn't the Germans. We go toe to toe now with another superpower that, okay, they look like us. They're white guys too, right? But they have technology. They're trying to land on the moon too, but they still have gulags. And for the most part, it's widespread misery. They collapsed through the grace of God. We didn't go to nuclear war with them. And now we're here. I look at where we are now. Yes, a ton of fucking flaws. And no, I'm not close to the idea that there could be a better system. But when you look at it from that point of view, I have food in my refrigerator. I can go drive to Walmart in a peaceful exchange. I can just slide a card in a thing and I can just take cooked roast beef out of this place and nobody tackles me for taking their hunt.
Well, Soviet Union, quite some time ago, thought their form of like communism was like the
The
bastion of hope
pinnacle of
for all
man.
people, and that when they arrived on the shores of America and they saw all of these grocery stores full of food, they were like completely flummoxed, weren't they? They were like, "Oh,
Well, I've
we've
interviewed
really fucked up, haven't we?"
I've interviewed Ken
I
Albeck, who is the chief of the bioweapons program, who had sorry to cut you off,
No,
who
no, it's
came
all
to the
good.
United States and saw all of it. And he was like a top in the like inner circle. And he was like, as a like as basically like royalty in the Soviet Union. He's like, I don't get all this. And the average podunk American is just like, yeah, for $1 you get a Big Mac. Like that's when he was like that. Okay. So I look at all of that. And I look at the base of it, despite all these advancements that were for the most part were hairless, we're not hanging in trees and flinging our shit at each other. We do still bare our teeth. We still sex drives most things, right? We still, despite trying to be evolved, and I understand that Elon Musk is going to go to Mars. My mouth still waters like a dumb pig when I see bacon. Like we're still very much beasts, right? I have
Yeah,
water
yeah,
because my sound making machine gets dry. I have to lubricate. We're still very much like Mark II. We're like Gen 2 of machinery.
yeah. Right.
So it can very quickly. The quote is society is 4 meals away from anarchy.
Hmm.
I tend to look at this all as like such a fragile happenstance thing that for all of its flaws, the least worst place is also the place with like the most power. It's separated by 2 oceans and has a ton of natural resources.
I guess if it really wanted to, it could have blown up a whole lot more than it has.
Yeah, yeah. It was floated that in 1946 and 47, should we go nuke this Soviet Union before they get A bombs? We decided not to. I tend to look at where we are as like, hey, we've got this patch of land. We got friendly northern neighbors, Canada, Mexico. Sure, they're full of cartels, but I mean, like, sure, it's probably better them than fucking, I don't know, Iran. Yeah, I think it's the least worst place. And I think the brutal truth is we are still all chimps. And so we listen to power, not ideals. So you probably need a massive military to keep it safe.
Mm.
It's not the best answer. And I know there are a million flaws, but it's also always easier to talk about how things should be instead of actually offering it. The world really sucks. People are taking money and the media lies. Congratulations, fucktard. You got any other brilliant observations? We're the third rock
Well,
from the sun. How are you going to fix it? And
yeah,
so I know I've been rambling for 20 minutes, but like I see it as the least worst place where for the grace of God, we've all, for the most part, kind of just don't kill each other over food anymore. And you can even go out and say, fuck Kathy Griffin can go out with a beheaded rubber Donald Trump and she gets retweets. And the worst that happens is she gets canceled from her show instead of shot in the basement of a secret police prison. To me, that's brilliant. That's something worth keeping for all
yeah.
of its flaws. And then, of course, the genius of the beast, and it's producing this thing.
Well, hey,
That's my pitch for America.
I
Fuck it. I should be hired by the State Department.
some marketing 101 there.
There is right there. This message brought to you by the Department of. Oh, motherfucker! I knew it. Just fucking the seal just goes across the state. This brought to you. This brought to you by
Hang
the
on,
Central
someone's
Intelligence
just
Agency.
knocked at my door.
Yeah, yeah,
Who have you seen?
yeah, yeah. Department of Home. This message brought to you by the department. You flash your badge. You're like, Tommy. Well, thank you for your application for the Department of Homeland Security. I'm like, thank you, sir. Praise God and country. Yeah, but that's kind of. And maybe it's not America in the future. Maybe it's Britain. Maybe I don't know, but it's like that idea.
Well, I think that's where something like the United Nations is, on
Hmm.
one hand, a good entity and a bad one.
Hmm.
But in essence, if we look at it along the lines of what you were just describing, it doesn't have to just be one country.
Sure. Ideally, it wouldn't be. That
Yeah,
would if
but
we're
that's
gonna.
not the fact. That not all countries are stepping up and
Yeah.
doing what's necessary to keep the world safe. I think there's been a lot of burden placed at America's feet. Just look at the likes of NATO and the funding. I mean, there's certainly been some very logical statements made about the funding of the likes of NATO, and that it is all rather lopsided. I do believe America pays for most of it.
Yeah.
Why?
So like yeah, in
It's very
peacetime,
convenient for all of the other countries that that's the fact.
yeah,
But
that they can have these rich social. They have. Did you know they have social safety nets in Sweden? Yeah, they also don't pay for their Abrams tanks.
Yeah.
It's very easy for me to
Some
critique my dad about being mean when my dad's the one that puts me through private school and healthcare.
Yeah,
Huh?
totally. Some
Kind of
inconvenient
convenient for
truth
me to
right
point at
here.
dad and say it would have been better if I. Hey, sorry, fucktard. I made sure you got world class medicine and a private education. Yeah, pretty easy for me to. Huh, you know what I don't like about Steve Jobs? What have you brought, Tommy?
Yeah.
Sure, tell us how your podcast has been a bigger impact on the world than the touchscreen. It's yeah, it's but
It all needs to be talked about.
yeah. So I don't know. What if Howard had just been completely co-opted and the genius of the beast was paid for by just like a bunch of like anti-socialist guys who were like, we need you to write a book on why capitalism's the fucking best. And Howard's 80, he's like, fuck it, I'll take the check. And I'm a Howard fanboy, so I'm just eating it up. And I'm like, the genius of the beast, and you're coming on here. You and I are just getting played like a fiddle by the fucking Central Intelligence Agency. If that was the case, no, I'm not even mad. Fucking respect, credit where credit's due. Um,
Totally, totally.
well,
Yeah.
let's wrap this one up on kind of the final thought of you had said before I went into that 20-minute pro-America diatribe that should be played at Ellis Island is if we all know how each other think, right? It's very easy to I always try to I've only been to a handful of weddings in my life, but I always think about how beautiful they are. It's all these people I've known my whole life and everyone's there and they're dressed to the nines and you try not to cry. You see them get married and it's great. And it's just that the sun setting and the food's great and the beer's flowing. It's just, I mean, really one of the great evenings of your life. And then I realized that like we have blown those moments up with drones in the Middle East.
Mm.
And when you look at it like that, instead of just like, well, you know, war is hell and there are collateral damages, that sounds great as a PR release.
It's very convenient.
Look at it
Yeah.
from that point of view. I mean, I said my little brother got married 2 months ago, and I was sitting there and I looked at my older brother. I go, you know, we've blown these things up with drones. And one of the guys goes, why do you have to fuck this up? And I was like, I'm trying to, I was like, I'm just trying to, he's like, I know what you're trying to do, but can we not? And I was like, sorry.
There's a time and a place, Tommy. Come
We're all
on.
literally in like our best, you know, white tablecloths. I was like, you know, MQ1 Reapers, and my brother was like, dude, shut the fuck up. And I was like, I'm just saying, put it in perspective. Like, do you understand why there's all? And it's just like, dude, it's not your day. No, all right. So I put it back in.
But I know why you did it. Because it never gets bought up. So hey, there's it's as good a time as
Yeah.
any.
Hey,
Whoops.
you know, three shots deep, feeling a little loose. You know, I just want to ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I just want to say something.
Hey, if only you'd wanted to have that serious conversation last Thursday, I
The
wouldn't be bringing it up today.
RQ-180 Reaper, also known as the Beast of Kandahar, produced by Northrop Grumman for $300 million. Just shut your mouth. For $300 million a unit, carries 4 AGM Hellfire missiles with approximately 18 kilograms of high explosive. Oh, gee, cut the mic. I got my own mic. Like, you know, but the point is like when you put it into that, and you just see how beautiful it is, and then you go, oh, I get now why we're hated. I do understand it. I think my dad actually made the observation several years ago when Elon Musk first floated the idea of Neuralink. And my dad was talking about being able to like understand one another. And I was like, yeah, that would be wild if, you know, just like an automatic translator so I could go talk to somebody in China. And my dad was like, no, like what if you could feel what they're feeling? Because there is a bottleneck to words, right? You and I we're doing a pretty good job at explaining, but we could sit here for the next 90 hours and you couldn't begin to scratch the surface of how important your wife and son are to you, right? I couldn't begin to explain what it's like to lose a sibling to suicide, right? We just couldn't. But what if you could feel it?
Mm.
That might Tim Dillon said it best. He goes, the iPhone and the internet has done far more than any multinational, you know, political movement to bring freedom to the whatever the fuck. No. The internet's done it with no central planning. I think I don't know if it will be something like a UN led effort to bring peace to. It might be some what genius of the beast invention for profit Neuralink It might be all of a sudden you plug in and all of a sudden I experience what it's like to grow up in Iraq. And then vice versa, some like jihadi experiences. He goes, like, I just experienced all of Tommy's life in 1 second. That
Mm.
dude's as powerless against the CIA as I am. I'm like, yeah, dude, what are you talking about? I'm for that. I'm just as fucked as you are. I'm just lucky they're not droning me because I'm white and I'm in America. That might be the thing that starts to bring peace. That's, I really can't imagine anything else that would do it. I don't even know what would come close to it. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. Kept you for an hour and a half. I said I was going to keep you for an hour.
Oh, it's all good. I
Uh,
enjoy
uh,
I
you
enjoy this sort of stuff.
you you signed up for it. You agreed to come
Yeah,
on. You knew what you're getting into. You
100%.
free will. Free will. You know what you're doing. You buckled into this roller coaster. I didn't put a gun to your head. Not officially.
No, sir.
Um, but hey, dude, I'd love to have you back on sometime. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for reaching out. And you got anything you want to plug? You have any links you want me to put in the description or?
Oh, no, I don't think so, really. I mean, we could start to touch on something else, but I think I'd be keeping you for probably another 45 minutes because it would lead into a whole bunch of new discussions.
Let's I'd love to schedule another one with you, but I feel like this has gone on its natural arc. I have learned
Yeah.
getting through enough episodes is
Yeah, I think I'd be forcing a series of topics to come up, and yeah,
it starts
it
to
would be a
turn in
new
check.
conversation. Yeah,
Yeah, it does get awkward when a podcast sort of comes to a natural end. And then someone's like, by the way, and you're like, all right, no, it's ending beautifully. You're like, let it go. Don't
yeah,
be the guy bringing up the drones at the wedding.
yeah.
So, God, that, thank God I didn't have a microphone. I hadn't drank in like a month, so I had like half a beer and was like already buzzed. I'm like, we've blown these things to fucking pieces. I mean, just like charred hamburger meat everywhere. Like, dude, it's like a violin playing. And I'm like, just, you don't even see it. It comes in hypersonic. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get why you join ISIS. Like, Jesus Christ. My mom's crying, watching my little brother kiss the bride. And I'm just like, oh, Hellfire. Its name is Hellfire. Like, fucking,
Oh
you know,
dear.
play your position. That's why I do a podcast. That's why I'm not married with kids. That's why I'm screaming at a camera to a guy I didn't know existed last week. Read the room, Tommy. Read the room.
uh,
But
Classic.
hey, text me that
Yeah,
book that
let's
you
do it
showed me
again.
earlier, and we'll
Yeah.
get one on the books. Text me, and if I don't get back to you tonight, I'll get back to you tomorrow, and we'll get another one of the books. Probably, I don't know, like a month out or something.
Okay.
Um, thanks for coming on, man. That was fucking fun as shit. I enjoyed that.
Thanks for
That was
having me.
that was fun, dude. That was fun as shit. I'm glad you had the headphones on because I
I
absolutely was swearing when that kid walked in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I figured it would go this way, funnily enough. Like there was something about it. And when I get a feeling like that, it's pretty much spot on. So I had a blast too. And
look,
I know we could rock it again.
hell
And I
yeah,
think it'd actually get better and better over time
absolutely.
as we
Oh,
get to kind of
absolutely.
know about one another a bit more.
Absolutely. As Brian Reagan said, the comedian, whenever you feel like butterflies in life, go in that direction because
Yeah.
all the best things in your life happen after butterfly. First date,
Yeah.
first kiss, fucking taking the new job, whatever.
First podcast.
Yeah, first podcast, it feels I feel a little nervous. This guy's kind of I don't know if this guy's unhinged, and I am, but like it was fun, right? It was fun. I'm gonna get some unmarked bills in the mail from the CIA for that pro-America message. Good job, Agent Kerrigan. I'll be like, I got
Either that or some checks.
shit,
Could go either
give
way.
me something. I mean, I might clip that and send that to Langley and be like, hey, I know you guys do psyops. They're just, I'm putting that out there. I did that one for free. Imagine what I could do with some funding.
Well, there you go.
Or yeah, they're like, he is impressive. He does know about Hellfire missiles. But all right, dude. Let's wrap this one up. Thank you so much. I'll text this episode to you when it's up.
Cool.
That was great. God bless.